wonder if curiosity could be the kind, generous thing to lead us. Instead, so the definition of curiosity, just so you know, it's very simple. It is the strong desire, this is from the dictionary, the strong desire to know or learn something. That's all curiosity is, right? That's all kids are doing, is they're wanting to learn and grow and know more. And so I look at like, man, what's going on in our world? And it's been met with so much the opposite of that, to defend, to bunker down, to like just say, no, this is the certain place I need to be, and I'm going to defend this with everything, instead of being like, actually, why does that person think that? Why does that make me mad, sad, or glad when something is said and I go, ooh, that brings up something different in me, right? And so I'm looking at like my life, and especially the last 3 years were just like crazy. And there are so many times and places where I just felt so misunderstood. And I know I'm not alone in this, but I felt so like, man, if you only knew more, or if you asked me more questions, or if you cared to know that like my anger and my defensiveness right now, there is more to that. Like, ask me, get to know what is happening inside. And I equally, on the other side, am so easy to just assume someone is some way because of a hat they wear or a sign they have in their front yard, right? And sometimes you're right about your assumptions, right? I'm not saying that that intuition and that stuff's not there. But what it has done is it has kept me, and I think when I look at the world around us, it's kept us in our own places. We bunker down and we say, no, this is my certainty. This is what I believe. And what I am learning is I want to have curiosity like a child. Because what I have found and what happens is curiosity, it's like faith. It can move us. And I don't want a faith that says, no, this is the way, and protect it around you and do nothing. I want a curiosity. I want a faith that leads me to go connect to people and places that I wouldn't have otherwise connected with. And I'm not just thinking outside, like I want to be curious about my own self. Like we have so much to learn just about the depths of who we are. And Gretta, she's going to play the song later because I'm forcing you to. It's amazing. It's on her new album, and it's called Curious Woman. And we were in the studio, and we were, Shalene and I were recording our podcast with her husband. We have our own gear now, and now second season is going to sound like crap because we're not recording with Kyle. But anyways, it was a sweet summer. We'd go in every Tuesday and record, and Gretta would pop in, and they're in the middle of like making their Christmas album, and I was like, Kyle, play us a song. And Gretta was there, and so they played us Curious Woman that Gretta wrote. And I'm sitting there, and I like start crying, and it is like, this is everything to me. Like, it was talking about this empowering, like, you'll just listen, I don't want to give it away, but essentially, like, Gretta helped me to look at Mary and the birth of Jesus in this whole new way. It's always been, don't get me wrong, don't think I'm like a heathen here, about Jesus. It is, that's what Christmas is about, right? The birth, right? Okay. But it helped me to tap into looking at Mary as the mother of Jesus. And looking at her story of like what happened. And so for me, like, just bear with me here as we go through this. Mary has become, I'm not saying Mary is this like, oh, we need to follow and be just like Mary, but she's an archetype for me. She is an encourager. She's this picture of a woman in the Bible who is brave and curious and bold. And so if you have your Bibles, you can totally open up to Luke. Luke 1:28. And so I want you to just like picture this, and I could be wrong with my historical stuff right now, but like picture a young 15-year-old girl with dark skin. And she is beautiful. And she is engaged to be married. And she's also a woman in a society that has no rights of her own. Her life and her body is not hers. It is her future husband's. And she has this night where this angel comes to her. That would be freaking wild. I can't even picture. And the angel comes to her and says, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." Okay, like when I first read this, I go, oh, that's a really beautiful passage in the Bible. Greetings, the Lord's with you. Okay, cool. But like, what would that sound like as a woman who's like, you're like, oh my freaking God, what? Like, what does it mean for the Lord to be with you? Because for me, I have to go, I'm a woman, I am not a man, I can't go into the holy, holy places of the temple. I'm actually excluded from the places that my religion says I can encounter God. And yet an angel is coming to me and saying, the Lord is with you? I've done nothing to deserve this witness, and the Lord is with me? That is beautiful. And Mary, though, it says that she was greatly troubled at his words. Greatly troubled. Like, that, you would think like, oh, the Lord's with me. That's exciting. But she's like, me? No, like that's actually stirs up some stuff in me. I don't know if I can accept that. What? Me? I am poor. I am a woman. What are you, like, what is this angel coming to me for? And she wondered what kind of greeting this might be. Like, is this going somewhere, angel? And the angel says to her, do not be afraid. And I would want to say, have courage, right? The angel is saying, Mary, you have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. She's like, yeah, how will this be? She's like, that sounds really good. What? Like, I'm going to have a baby? Like, I'm a virgin. How is this going to happen, right? But I love it. For me, this story is this, like, this arc, this encounter that she's having of being like, I don't deserve this. Leaning into, like, okay, be brave. It's okay to, okay, I'm going to step into some curiosity. Tell me how this is going to happen. That sounds awesome, but like, how? And she goes, since I'm a virgin. And the angel answers, the Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age. And she who is said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month. For no word from God will ever fail. And then Mary says, I am the Lord's servant. May your word be fulfilled. May your word to me be fulfilled. And I would go, I don't even think she could comprehend the full weight of that. She says, I am the Lord's servant. And I bet after that baby Jesus was born, she goes, I am the Lord's mother. And so I've been looking at this and just pondering Mary in my head and in my heart and processing a lot with Gretta and her song. And this idea that, like, Mary didn't know this was coming her way. There's so much that happens to us that we're like, well, like all of 2020 was like, what the fuck is happening? Like on all different like places, we don't know what's coming our way. We can't know that. And so I look at Mary and I go, wow, your life is about to be flipped freaking upside down. Like, this is beautiful. You get to birth the Savior and the God of the universe. But also that comes with some stuff. people are going to have spread rumors about you. They're going to think you're this slut and that you're a liar and that you're crazy. Think about the people in your life or just history. It's whenever there's something new, that person's crazy. And then we get on board with it. Oh yeah, masks, that makes sense, right? Let's wear them. But in the beginning, it's those people are psycho. It's my dad still, it's okay. But I just am wow, she was so brave to say yes to that. And look what happens when she said yes to her curiosity. It opened up this whole new place. It gave us hope because she said yes. And I think about that with women in general. People's curiosity and courage is contagious, right? It's just beautiful. And so anyways, this journey for me, looking at Mary and listening to Gretta's song over and over again and thinking about this idea of courage and faith and how that can move us has stirred up new life in my heart. I have been in a place where I'm I want to throw out the Bible. I want to throw out all this crap. It is so much to try and hold it all together. And then I look at Mary and I go, I don't have to hold that together. I just get to say yes and keep moving. And that is the kind of faith that I long for. And to be really honest too, along with Mary in this song and stuff, but Black women theologians have liberated me. They have nourished me in ways when I was about to be I am throwing out my faith. I would pick up a book by Renita Weems or Christina Cleveland, and I go, that's what I needed. I needed to hear those words. And so Christina Cleveland, if you don't know her, look her up on Instagram. She is amazing. And she wrote this book called, I wrote it down here. No, we didn't. It is called, let me think, Christ Our Black Mother Speaks. And it's really short. It's just, you need to go get it, okay? It's a PDF, super easy. And she had these lines in there, and I was wow. And so she writes, I love this. She writes, Christ, our Black mother, like all Black mothers, doesn't have time for phony. She is not here for a tidy faith. She is here for authentic faith. Okay? And then she goes on, she is labeled she has this word I think she made up called white male God. And so she says, white male God has a chokehold on our theology. And maybe you guys can think about this. As a white woman growing up, it's be nice, be pretty. Don't be uncomfortable. Don't say asshole in the shopping cart when your mom's shopping. Be perfect. That is what my faith has been reduced down to. And so no wonder I come to this place where I go, I don't want this anymore. I do not want a faith that's making me be perfect. I cannot do that. And so when Christina Cleveland writes, God is here for authentic faith. Oh my gosh. That to me helps set me free to be you're right. God doesn't care about me being perfect. That's not the point of any of this. And so I love it when he comes to Mary, he's you are favored. There was nothing perfect about her, but she was willing and curious to get messy. If you have been pregnant, birthed the baby in any capacity, it is a freaking crazy. I love it. Katie came up and was do you want to hear my birth story? And I was yes, thanks for saying that right away. I was hoping you would tell me. And I love it. And everyone is so unique and so crazy. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent now. I'll come back to the birth. But I love that. And so authentic faith, for me, it births new possibilities. It's not concerned with this faith of certainty, but it is moving us in a place of saying, hey, let's think bigger, right? So Walter Brueggemann is an awesome author and wrote about prophetic imagination. And It's been a lot of our conversations in our family lately of like, man, our world is flipped upside down. How do we picture something different? How do we not just change out the players, but we change the game? And if you're going to change the game, we have to think outside of the box here. And so what I think of when I think of this imagination or prophetic imagination, it's imagining the worlds that our heart knows is true. We know, like when your heart aches, you know that there is something different that can happen in this world. Yes, so pay attention to that and let's get curious and move in that direction. That's what prophetic imagination does. Christina Cleveland, again, she quotes this other woman, Cynthia Oka, and I love this. Cynthia writes, "Revolution is not about self-defense. It is about self-creation." And I read that and I go, oh my gosh, that is what we get to do. When I look at Mary as this archetype, divinity is growing inside of her, and she births this life into the world that brings hope to all. And I go, like when Greta was talking about the breath of God, we have that breath and that divinity within us. That is what goes out into the world. We're not trying to defend ourselves as women and stand up against the patriarchy. I want to create something new. I want to co-create that, and not just with God, with you guys. Revolution is not about self-defense. It is about self-creation. It is about seeing further than the walls directly in front of us. And so I just want us to pause, like, what are the walls that you feel like are around you? Where do you feel stuck? Where do you feel like, what is around you? And how do we imagine a different possibility? When I think about like some of the walls that have been around me, it was patriarchy. It was this, be perfect, be a lady. That was told to me a lot. Be a lady, well, what does that mean? Like what are these walls around us? What feels impossible to break down of, right? And what I love is that Jesus is calling us, and he calls Mary to step into something that is humanly impossible, and calls us to step out into faith and say, hey, we're going to step into some uncertainty and into this unknown space. Frozen 2 is really good. We can just play that song at the end. But I was watching that and this isn't in my notes, but I remember watching Frozen 2 being like, I think this is my life story. Like, there's this calling on your life, and you were made for something different than the castle that you're living in, and you have to go out into the unknown. Like, there's no other way to describe it. And that's what I think of with Mary. Like, the God of the universe invited her into the unknown, and that was faithful. Faith is not having all the answers. Faith is saying, okay, let's step into that. Let's imagine a better world that hasn't even existed.
Sorry. It's going to go on for a second.
I'll collect myself here. It's beautiful. I mean, I can talk over it, but I'm distracted. So
there's still 7 chimes yet to come.
7 chimes. That's a divine number of chimes. Divine chimes. Okay. We're not done yet. I really love it. That's so good. So like I was saying, I'm not counting, so it feels like forever. Okay. Good. Okay. So hopefully, I mean, here's the deal. I'm getting preachy here. I hope you can connect something to okay, that makes sense. But here's my hope. I think when I was imagining this group of women, and also I can only speak out of what I'm personally learning. So if you don't get anything out of this is good for me. Thank you. But I picture you are amazing women. You are empowered. You know what is good. You know what is true. Go in that direction. Let's go and help humanity flourish, and ourselves as well. And so I think going back to that quote about the revolution, I looked up the definition of revolution, and it says a forcible overthrow of a government or a social order in favor of a new system. I am not joking when I'm like, we need to have a revolution here. It feels like apocalyptical times, not in the sense of like Left Behind series, but in the like, that's terrifying crap. But it does in the sense of when we look at what's going on, we can picture if we go in this direction, it will end badly. But if we could go in a direction that embraces curiosity, that embraces health and wholeness and connection with all humankind and inclusion of all humankind, that will make a big difference. And it honestly, like, it really does begin with us. And so when I think about this, like, I'm not saying let's go, overthrow the government here. I'm saying let's start with the systems and the beliefs that we have chosen to hold on to that actually are oppressing us. And so when I think about like faith systems, I think about like, okay, when the womanist theologians write and they speak and I hear them, and when I ponder the curiosity of Mary, the mother of Jesus, I think about this faith that I go, that's what I want. I want a faith that flows, that moves us into justice, that moves us to a place to listen to people, that moves us to be curious and to grow and evolve, that moves us into the unknown, right? That moves us towards connection and community. It's messy and it's authentic. I want a faith that is nonviolent and that is inclusive. That is what I want. Whereas the system I want to freaking overthrow is a faith system that says, no, this is the answer. And I don't know if you know this, but every 500 years, the church has changed its mind. Why do we think that now we got to hold these whatever? And it's like, well, maybe. I'm not saying they're all bad, but I'm saying let's be curious and actually look at them. And let's not let our first answer be like, no, this is what it says. And be like, oh, well, let's engage that. Let's be curious about it, right? An old faith system that is defensive. It has something to protect. Where I go, oh, the God of the universe doesn't need us to protect God. God can do that. It was an old faith system that says be perfect, be tidy. It's actually pretty violent. When I think about what it demands of us, that is a violent system of faith that just uses and abuses. And it excludes people. It's all about who's in and who's out. Where I go, I want a faith that says yes to the young brown woman who is poor. I want that woman to carry the God of the universe. That is the faith I want to step into. And so when Mary enters into this unknown, like, she is allowing and saying yes to and experiencing God growing within her. And this is what I come to, is that though I'm not pregnant with the Lord, our Savior, like, I do think there is this metaphorical element that I can draw upon and be like, you know what, there is divinity within me. I want to nurture that. And yet when we look in the mirror, we're so mean to ourselves. I can be. And I don't want to do that anymore, because this body, like, why it was so important when Greta and I were talking about like stretching and moving, like, our bodies hold our breath. It gives us life. What happens if we were to nourish and take care of our bodies and radically love them? Sonia Renee Taylor, another amazing Black woman. She was on the Brene Brown podcast. Listen to it. She has this book called The Body Is Not an Apology. And I was taught that spaghetti straps were very sinful growing up. And now I go, oh, wow, we were really shamed to think our bodies were broken. That when we have our period every month, that we have to hide it. that we have to like be ashamed and embarrassed. Where now I go, that is beautiful. That is life-giving. That means that we have the potential for life in our bodies, that they're working. Like, why are we ashamed of that stuff? Let's embrace that and let's radically love it. And so this idea, going back to Sonia Renee Taylor, she talks about this idea of radical self-love. And so when I talk about like smashing the system, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, if you didn't figure that one out. But I just want to fight shit. But when I think about like, man, where does this revolution begin? Where does it change? It really does, I believe, start with our radical self-love. That we would love the bodies and the minds and the gifts that God has given us. That we would even maybe learn to be grateful for the position that we were born into and use that privilege to go and bring justice into the world, right? And so anyways, I think there's this, okay, I'm going to a lot of therapy lately. It's really helpful. And I think about, I'm like unearthing some of my old belief systems that have just been toxic for me, that have literally brought physical pain to my body. Like, it's just been crazy. And there were 2 times. So one time I'm like processing this anxiety that I have and this fear, and it is crippling. And I've never really dealt with it before. But 2020 really brings some good anxiety to your life, so that's great. And I'm sitting there and she goes, what if, Holland, you looked at your fear and you held it? What if you became curious about what was making you anxious and what you're so scared of? What would happen, Holland? She's like, I want you to close your eyes. You can too. And think about your fear as a little version of you. And I want you to invite that fear and hold it, and just hold it. And she goes, what's happening, Holland? And I was like, I don't feel fear anymore. I just feel sad. And it softened. My defenses went down, and I was able to be like, okay, and this is like weird stuff I do with my mind, but it's been really helpful. But tapping into that curiosity, I go, okay, fear, what do you want to say? What do you want to speak to me right now? And I'll listen, and I'll be like, okay, you can go now. Sometimes it wants to linger with me, though. That's great. And if you've read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, she has this really sweet picture of when fear creeps in. She's like, it's like you're on a road trip, and you acknowledge it, and you say, okay, thanks for being here. Thank you. You don't get to drive. No, and you don't get to be in charge of the playlist, but you can sit with me and hang out. And so that's been really helpful for me. And so I think about like Mary, like what happened? Like when she was in those places of being like, people don't understand me. I'm actually really scared for my life right now. And I picture just like, she holds her belly, or she holds Jesus as a baby. What are you holding? Like, let's not be scared of it anymore, but let's embrace it and bring it in so that it will soften. That we don't have to run from it, but we can make friends with it in a strange way. And then the other thing, so this was last Monday in therapy again, and I'm processing this like idea of being like, I feel broken inside. Why do I feel that way? Why is that a narrative in my head? Oh, because the church has told me forever, you are broken and a sinner separated from God. And I've started to expand and be like, I can't be separated from God. God is always with me. Why do I think that? I remember even my Young Life leader being like, God is a fixed point, and you can either move away or to God. And I was like, what? Now I call bullshit on that. Because God can never be far from you because God is with you. And I picture Mary growing the literal God inside of her. And I go, that is the closeness of God with us. When I think of that picture, I go, God is within us. I'm not saying I'm God or you're God, but God is with us. That's Emmanuel. And so I'm like processing, and my therapist is like, okay. What did she tells me, she goes, you're not broken. She looks at me, and I was like, I didn't realize that that's what I was like processing. And I start weeping. And then she starts being like, I love her, Deanna, you guys, she's the best. And she's like, yes, good. Yeah, let it out, good. And I'm like, oh my God. She's like, breathe, good. Yeah. She gives me the box of tissues. And I'm like, just letting it out. Like my body had to release all of this that I was holding on to. And I'm sitting there like weeping, and I'm like, her voice, I'm like, this sounds strangely familiar. Like this is bringing me back to a different place. And it literally, I was like, she is saying the same words that my midwife was saying as I was giving birth to my children. And when I was in labor, my midwife was like, yeah, breathe, good, breathe. Like, I'm like, oh my God, am I having like a spiritual birthing experience right now? Like, what's happening? And I feel like it was, like, there was something in me that was like coming out, like, of being like, hey, we don't have to go down that metaphor any further, but it's been this like really beautiful journey to think about this idea of birth. And I know birth, it is hard. It doesn't always end the way we want it to. So when I share this birth story, I'm not saying it's great. There is pain in it. It will transform you. And I think about, gosh, what was it like for Mary to give birth to the God of the universe? Holy cow. What is inside of you that you are growing and co-creating that you can birth out into this world? Because the world needs you. You are not here just to be a person to fit in. Like, you are here to birth something unique into the world and to own that and to walk in that. And I think about, gosh, if birth is this metaphor of faith, I do want a faith that's authentic and that's messy and bloody and unique unto me. And I just no longer can ascribe to a faith that says, have it all together. Because if anyone has had a baby, it is a wild, crazy time. And that has given me hope to be like, oh, my experience as a woman who gets, and not all women want this or choose it. So I don't like that. My story is not yours in the birthing experience. But I do think if you can track with me on the metaphor there, that there is something really unique that women can bring into the world. There is a healing and a feminine presence that is strong and messy, though. So I will stop blabbling, but what I would hope that you could hear is that if we could step into, oh no, I'm not done. I just remember one more thing. Okay, so Elizabeth and Mary. Here's what's, I looked at Gretta and Annie, and you guys reminded me of this. So this picture, if you're tracking with me somehow, of birthing authentic curiosity into the world, right? And we own that. We cannot do that alone. I love that when the angel came to Mary, he goes, hey, guess what? Elizabeth's pregnant too. Who knew? Your old elder aunt is like having a baby too. And that like brought her hope to be like, I'm not alone. Like, and so I think there's power that when women can come together and be like, hey, you are not alone in this. And I don't know if, like, I definitely was in the place of being like, my world's turning upside down. I'm questioning everything. I got fired, all this crazy crap. Like, what's happening? I had a group of sisters around me who gave me a brave space to process that. And then maybe you're in the space to be a brave space for your sisters who are in that weird space. Maybe you're the one who needs to receive the comfort, give it. I think it's all of it at different seasons, right? And Annie and I were chatting a lot about this, and I even brought up, like, man, Annie, when you left Young Life that was really hard. And I'm apologizing to you now. I look back and I go, oh, I stayed silent. I was quiet. I just was like, oh, that's the way things are in Tucson. That sucks. You know, and now I look back and I go, what if I stepped in and said, hey, this is not right. Hey, listen to my friend. And I'm not saying we have to own everyone's stuff, but what I am saying is that as women, we get to step in and stand with. And so I didn't understand that until I went through the same, very similar process. And I go, all that I craved was people to stand with me as I was shifting. And thankfully we had that community, and it did transform me. And so all of that, I go, man, it matters that we engage our curiosity and that we step into figuring out, what does it look like to have a faith that is authentic and real and raw? And how do we do that together? How do we, when someone says a question that's awkward, we go, oh, I'm going to engage and listen. I'm not going to shut that out. Let's tap into that. What does that mean? Or like with our own selves, maybe you're in a place of more like, man, I'm dealing with this. Ask it questions, whatever the thing is you're going through. Hold that fear and let it melt and soften. So thanks for letting me share, you guys. Greta's going to play Curious Woman because that song has wrecked my life in the best way possible. And what we really want to do is just give a gift to say, just listen. Close your eyes, step into that, and ponder, what are the things that you're curious about right now? What are the things that are making your heart beat? and ask it questions. Definitely do. Go for it. Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much, Holland. Oh, that was beautiful. I'm so excited just to journal later or something. Or process that. Yeah, I think Holland so kindly talked about this song. But for me, writing this song, I was also inspired by Mary and just how powerful it is, what she accomplished through God. And I was thinking about the analogy of her birthing Jesus, and you guys have all probably heard about when you're in the crowning phase of labor, you're crowning, and it's some people even call it the ring of fire. It feels like you're on fire a little bit. It's really exciting for anyone who hasn't had babies yet. But I had this thought in my mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, Mary was the first one to crown the king. I was like, that's so cool. Literally, physically. And that lyric didn't specifically make it into this song, but it was just really inspiring to me to be like, oh my gosh, she crowned Jesus first. That is so cool. And just that fire and that heat that you experienced in labor. I think so many Christmas songs are kind of about being cold and snowy, but when I think of the actual Christmas story, it's fire, it's powerful and it's heat, so I hope this song, you guys have the lyrics in front of you if you want to check it out, but I hope it can be whatever it should be for you today. I feel the flames on Madonna. I feel the heat of your child, birthing from all heaven's glory, clothed in the brown skin of God. I see a light in the desert. I see it blazing on high, burning down all preconceived notions of who you would be. Call it a sweet or a sweet premonition. We saw no defeat as we labor the weight of the fire. Curious woman, the revolution is your joy. I've kept my hopes locked away. I've kept my scars in a jar. I thought that love had a limit, careful not to reach too far. Flipping that table of lies, breached but I'm breathing just fine. Dear woman, please recognize divinity held inside. Call it a sweet, sweet premonition. We saw no defeat as we labored the weight of the fire. Call it a sweet, sweet premonition. We saw no defeat as we labored the weight of the fire. Curious woman, the revolution is your joy. Call it a sweet, a sweet premonition. Call it a sweet premonition. I feel the flames on Madonna. I feel the heat of your child, birthing from all heaven's glory, clothed in the brown skin of God.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greta. We're gonna do communion now, so if you need a little refill of that box wine, just raise your hand. Okay. And here's what I love. In that song, it says preconceived notions of who you'd be. Mary's starting to question this. Like, I thought God was gonna come as like this mighty warrior to save us from Rome, right? And instead, it came as a bloody baby. And so, through the body of a woman, like that is totally different than what, the world was expecting. And I think as we can go on this journey, I want us to find joy in the revolution. That we can't plan it out, but that something beautiful will grow and come from it. And when I think about like this, it's kind of culty sounding, like the blood of Christ and the body of Christ. Like when I really think about it, I'm like, oh, I grew up with it, so it sounds normal. But I often think like, what if I didn't grow up taking communion? That sounds weird. And it is weird, but there is a beauty in it. And what I think is so important is it's this connection and reminder to the embodiment of the divine. That our spirituality and the divine is not out there. It's not for us to go and try to obtain. It is actually something to take within us. It is a part of us. And so, and I think too, this idea of blood, like when a guy gets hurt, their blood is scary. But we see blood all the time. And it's like, oh, this is our life. This is normal. And so I think there's a beauty in that as well. And really, when we step down this journey of being curious, it will kick you out of places. I have been there. But it will move you into spaces that you couldn't otherwise have had. And so when I think about the cross, this is the central thing that has anchored me to Jesus still, is this idea of life, death, and resurrection, that we do not need to be scared of death. That when you walk down the path of curiosity and death happens, and there are deaths of ideologies or of ways we used to believe or think, that is okay. Because what happens? The whole anchor of the Christian tradition is that there would be new life from that we get to usher in that new life. And so we're going to take communion, and Greta's going to play a song for us. And so I'm going to pray too, something I still do. And we'll just pray for this time. And then after communion, are you still?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Jesus, thank you so much for just this space to gather, to be together. It is good for my soul to see faces. More than 10. It is good. God, you are good. Thank you that you have created us with bodies that are good, with minds to think. And thank you that you are with us. You are always with us, God. And you are always moving us into more love and compassion and kindness. Amen.
I've been beaten down, I've been kicked around, but she takes it all for me. And I lost my faith in my darkest days, but she makes me want to believe. They call her love, 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 love. They call her love, 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 love. And she is love. She is all I need. Well, I had my weights, they were all in vain, but she waited patiently. It was all the same, all my pride and shame, and she puts me on my feet. They call her love, 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 love. They call her love, 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 love. She is love. She is all I need. She's all I need. And when that world slows down, dear, and when those stars burn out here, oh, she'll be there. Yes, she'll be there. They call her love, 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 love. They call her love, 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 love. They call her love, 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 love. And she is love. And she is all I need. Thanks for listening. I love songs like that maybe are considered more secular, but just seem very worshipful to me. Yeah, and like I said before, I think as someone who really values songs that we sing to God, I also really value that representation of gender in there. And so on this next song, I invite you to sing along with me if you'd like. But yeah, one of the lyrics has been changed from a he to a she. And I encourage you, if you're comfortable with it, just to sing that with us. And I remember when I started singing more gender-inclusive worship songs, sometimes it would feel weird. And then it got to a place where it actually felt healing. Like it actually felt different in my body. Like I was recognizing a part of God inside of me that maybe I was ignoring before. And when I started recognizing that and letting it heal me, it actually kind of gave me a new experience around worship. So if you're interested in checking that out, do it. Yeah, I love how in Genesis it says, humankind was created as God's reflection. In the divine image, God created them, female and male, God created them. I love that because if God in its fullness does encompass that gender, that means that God is at least what we see, what God created. God created them, female and male. And how in Hosea it says God is described as a mother bear. In Deuteronomy, God is described as giving birth. In Isaiah, God is shown as a comforting mother and a woman in labor. And again in the Psalms, God as a mother. And in Matthew, God as a mother hen. And in Luke, God as a woman looking for her lost coin. So I just think that I'm inspired by you all and the way that I get to see God in those of you that I know and how we can see God in each other. So this song is called House of God Forever. God is my shepherd, I won't be wanting, I won't be wanting. She makes me rest in fields of green with quiet streams. Even though I walk through the valley of death and dying, I will not fear, 'cause you with me, you with me. Your shepherd staff comforts me. You are my feast in the presence of enemies. Surely goodness will follow me in the house of God forever. In the house of God forever. God is my shepherd, I won't be wanting, no, I won't be wanting. She makes me rest in fields of green with quiet streams. Even though I walk through the valley of death and dying, I will not fear, 'cause you with me, you with me. Your shepherd